Perseverance and passion is super important. You can have the best idea ever and a not so good team, it's not gonna work. You have a great team and maybe an okay idea, and it can be fantastic.
Today on Mission Critical, I'm joined by Debra Facktor, Head of U.S. Space Systems at Airbus U.S. Space and Defense, a leader at the crossroads of rapid innovation, national security, and global collaboration. Debra has led Airbus's shift toward faster, more agile space acquisition for government missions. Under her watch, Airbus delivered major wins like Tranche 1, the SDA program, while building teams that operate faster, flatter, and with sharp mission focus. She's also a champion of mentorship, diversity, and creating cultures where top performers thrive and risk drives progress. In this conversation, we dive into how to build speed into space, lead under pressure, and scale teams that consistently outperform. Welcome, Debra.
Hi, Catherine. Pleasure to join you today.
Hey, I'm so excited to get this rolling. I first heard your name way back when from Catherine Kaczynski at an SSPI WISE event, and you've been on my radar ever since.
Well, I appreciate that. You've done a great job interviewing a lot of my colleagues and other leaders, and it's always interesting to see what little factoids come out and give people pause and inspiration in our fantastic world of space.
Yes, well, let's get into it. The question we're all thinking about is Tranche 1. Tell me where we're at in that.
Yeah, thanks for asking. So, big focus of my activities at Airbus U.S. Space and Defense is execution. We are gearing up to launch the first plane of satellites for the Space Development Agency's Tranche 1 transport layer. So, for your listeners who are familiar with what SDA is doing, they've really pioneered the concept of proliferated low Earth orbit constellations for military purposes. So they call it the proliferated warfighter space architecture. And the idea was build layers and different tranches of capabilities that eventually can be used for the warfighter.
Mhm. Now you got 42 in line, right?
Yeah, the first one, 42. So we're a sub to Northrop Grumman. We're their
Hmm.
partners for building all the buses, and we've got 42 satellites for Tranche 1 transport layer. We have 16 satellites for the Tranche 1 tracking layer, and another 74 satellites for the Tranche 2 transport layer. So pretty good backlog of our Aero 450 satellite bus.
Absolutely. So right now, rapid capabilities is something everybody's talking about, and I think oftentimes when think of people think of large companies, they think slow.
Right.
You're moving fast. Tell me a little bit about how that is a misconception, or how you go about building kind of more an entrepreneurial environment in a large organization.
Yeah, so the story of Airbus with constellations and smaller satellites started with OneWeb. So did a partnership with OneWeb and formed a joint venture 50-50, centered around manufacturing of satellites. We opened, so that partnership started, let's say, around 2016 ish.
Long before Tranche 0, right?
Long before Tranche 0, exactly. And in fact, it's a good example of taking commercial capability and translating that over to military purpose. So, we built the factory. It opened, in fact, exactly 6 years ago in Florida with a partnership with Space Florida in Exploration Park, and that was 2019, and launched the first satellites, the Aero 150, for the OneWeb Generation 1 constellation in 2020. Then it was COVID. So a lot of things change while you're trying to go fast. But we
Hmm.
eventually built over 700 satellites of the Aero 150, over 650 are in orbit. And we pivoted. So Airbus US, our role coming in, I joined the company about 5.5 years ago, right as COVID was starting, in fact. And the idea was, how can we take this great capability that we've invested for commercial constellations and be ready for the military applications? Started with a DARPA Blackjack program, 2019-ish. And then we bid on Tranche 0 with the Aero 150, but we really pivoted into a market where we needed a sweet spot of a larger, more capable satellite that was more appropriate, could handle more payloads and a diverse set of missions and meet in a commercial way what the government needed.
Okay,
So
I'm
that's
picking
how
out a
we
scab here.
Oh, yeah, sure.
You didn't win Tranche 0 first time around.
No, we didn't. No, actually, and it's okay. It was actually we bid both as a prime and as a sub, because we built a factory, we could have a great merchant supply capability. And we were super close. We were down selected in both transport and tracking. And we we really realized that we needed a different technical capability. So the bus, this was the investment in what is now the Aero 450,
Mhm.
and uh, we also realized there were more capabilities that we talk about going fast, being a big company. Airbus is a big company. Airbus U.S, space and defense, we're small. We're smaller in the U.S. Space was growing. And just to recognize what we were good at, and what we're good at is the bus side, the platforms, the integration, and the production at scale. Our factory in Florida, first one of its kind, and able to do co-located bus payload integration, space vehicle, put on the dispenser and go. So that was our sweet spot, and that was the pivot into Tranche 1.
And this is something I think most people in government contract can relate to. Like coming in second after you put so much effort into a major contract. And it sounds like you really use that moment to retool and figure out, hey, what are we exceptionally good at? Where do we need to lean in? And you talked a little bit about lean in investments with me earlier. Tell me how this related to that lean in investment.
Yeah, you really need to when a lot of times in rapid capability, or in disruption of a market or disruption of a technology, you have to be flexible because you intend. I mean, everybody, you have a business case, you have a plan, you think the market's going one way, something happens, could be anything. Could be COVID, could be a supply chain, could be the market change, the
Circumstances beyond your
circum
control.
exactly. Could
Mhm.
be could be any number of reasons. And you have to be ready and willing to pivot. We knew that the market demand was huge and growing, which it continues to do today. And is demonstrated by all the constellations that are being launched, deployed, what SDA is doing, what the commercial market is doing. So you really say, okay, how do you capture part of that and leverage what we're good at, leverage the original investment that Airbus made into the OneWeb company at the top level, and how that flowed down into the joint venture. So, frankly, did a business case, showed what the application would be, and in our startup environment of Airbus U.S, which lives kind of in a bubble underneath, what's called a FOCI mitigated company, foreign ownership, control, and influence. The Department of Defense governs us. We are when we do national security or classified work, that does not go back to Europe. And we said, this is a bus that the Aero 450, think sweet spot 300, 500 kilograms, can even probably go up to about 850 kilograms. And modular, multiple markets. Let's put an investment on top of that. So, yes, I got investment for the bus. I got investment to retool our existing factory, and got an investment to expand the factory for additional capability, including classified work.
So you took on a lot of risk. I mean,
Oh,
because
yeah.
what if you came in second again? I mean, I'm sure you got
We're-
asked that question before.
well, of course, it's always a question, but I got a great team. We
Well, no,
have,
we all love the resurrection story as well. But tell me a little bit about that risk
yeah,
piece, because
yeah,
that seems like you took on a lot of risk coming
oh,
off
yeah,
arguably a loss.
yeah. So, you know, your tolerance for risk and the appetite for it is an important ingredient for going fast. What is the risk profile? What are you willing to take? What are you willing to put in? What happens if it doesn't turn out as you plan? Well, it's probably not going to turn out as you plan anyway, because things, are just going to progress and mature. I think the confidence was that partially because we were already successful with the 150, and we
Yeah.
had a production line going. We had all the right ingredients. We had a great supply chain, great relationships that continued through COVID, through our joint venture
Yeah.
partners.
150 was crushing it.
150 was crushing it, uh, even though we had obstacles coming our way, including OneWeb went through a Chapter 11 restructure in the middle of all this. So
Right.
that resilience, and you see what the people are doing and the capabilities, and our satellites work. They're working well. OneWeb is doing well now. Eutelsat OneWeb. So I think we had the confidence that the ingredients were there, and if we could position ourselves in the right way with the right partnerships, and pull together a really good story, partner with good payload providers, and in Northrop's case, it's a great partnership because they bring a lot of things that we don't have. And like I said, focus on what we do best. And you have to know what you're good at and not take on too much. And when you do take on too much, because we all do, it's hard to say no, especially high achievers. And then say, okay, what do you have to pull back on in order to execute and be realistic, uh, and also set the expectations, because you can have a lot of dreams, a lot of promises, and the reality is when you do something new, uh, stuff happens.
There's a ramp up period. Yeah, there are going to be problems and you accept that. Mhm. You've got a lot of experience globally. And I'm thinking about your time in Russia, and I'm looking at your backdrop. If you're not watching on YouTube, take a peek. She's got a spectacular background here. Tell me a little bit about how you've perceived the biggest bottleneck in the US space acquisition system is and how you go about navigating that.
So, you know, u ultimately, I think our bottlenecks come down to culture and people and how we think, how we operate in the ecosystem that we've grown up in, and in one that now is in a huge dynamic change. So, space historically started from the governments. We have a huge military industrial complex that has come out since World War II, frankly, and ways that we worked with our partners and allies, competitively, race to the moon, collaboratively, International Space Station, and many others in between. And I think ultimately, in today's environment, we have so much technology. There's a ton of money in the market. There's artificial intelligence. There's uh, a lot of small businesses that have grown up into big businesses. And you have this sort of heaviness of the way we used to do business,
Abundance of resources.
abundance of resources, abundance of opportunities. And how do you bring them together to really make a good business, but to provide whatever goods and services, make our lives better on Earth, frankly. Um, and it people's personal fear, organizational fear, um, checks and balances. You can't be all too dreamy, not all rainbows and unicorns, but not all doom and
Doom
gloom.
and gloom.
No,
Mm.
in my research, I think I told you my little academic sabbatical at Stevens
I don't
Institute.
think that's so little. Tell us
Ah,
about it.
yeah, so I had some research funded in the Systems Engineering Research Center, which is a collaborative university consortium. All of DoD's systems engineering research went through Stevens, and I had research funded by my frankly, it was my former DARPA customer who was at the time in the um, in the Air Force, and my research was uh, expedited systems engineering for rapid capability and urgent needs. And it was inspired by why my last company failed, frankly. We
A
had
topic you probably knew way too well.
Oh, yeah, I knew a lot about it. It was very emotional, very close because I was in it. But I thought, how can we? It's this exact example of culture. DARPA and the Air Force, in this case, were partners. Strategic Command was our customer, and everybody had a different view of how to do something, how to do it right, how to do it fast, how to do it good, who was in charge, what the risks were. And my thesis was our systems engineering approach, because it was a systems engineering centered research,
Mhm.
clashed. A traditional model versus a rapid model. But really, it had nothing to do with the model. And it really, let's think of process. It also did not really have anything to do with the product. Kind of, sort of, because depending on how mature the product was,
Mhm.
it had everything to do with the people.
Yeah, that leaves one component left.
That's right. I'm left.
Wow. So, looking back at kind of what was a painful experience and also the fact that you did a thesis on it, what advice would you give your former self having gone through that?
I think I learned that perseverance and passion is super important. You can have the best idea ever and a not so good team, it's not going to work. You have a
Mhm.
great team and maybe an okay idea, and it can be fantastic.
Great teams can elevate
Great teams can elevate.
mediocre ideas.
Yeah, yeah,
Mhm.
and they can also creatively figure out a way around the obstacles, the real obstacles and the perceived obstacles, the obstacles that they put in their head. They're really not obstacles at all. They're just made up. And that it's super important to not be put off by that. I think naturally in my nature, it doesn't phase me. I think that's kind of fun, actually. So I enjoy it. But the other thing is the advice I would give, and it's something that I still struggle with some days, is it's okay to ask for help and get help. Build a community, build your advocacy, solve problems. Don't assume you know all the answers. Ask questions. So often we jump into ladder of inference or what looking for evidence of confirmation bias. There's a lot more out there if you understand the facts and
Mhm.
then be open to the creativity.
Yeah. Given that experience, would you do it again? It sounds like a bad marriage, but a lot learned from it.
you know, so I would say, okay, if you really look at the things I've done in my career, every single one had this start of the uh, environment and entrepreneurial, then something happens, like, okay, then you pivot. Then I do
Yeah.
it again. Then I do it again.
Then
And
you
then
pivot.
I do it again. Yeah. So will I do it? I mean, I'm still doing it.
Mhm.
So yes, it's I think in my passion, helping others to do that, navigating whatever environment you're in at the time, because each each thing that you do, so each opportunity, I had you mentioned the Moscow office, Kistler Aerospace, Air Launch, Ball, and an Airbus U.S. Each of those has its time, and in my career, and how they combine together for better learning and application uh, as you go, and in all different sizes. From a and all different funding levels. Coming back to your question about large companies and what you do, I'm super grateful. I've gone from small to, big. Many others go from big and I say, "Oh, forget this. I'm going to go small."
That's usually the trajectory we see.
Yeah. Yeah, and I like this because what I bring in the larger environment is understanding the smaller ecosystem and the nimbleness that you need and how you can navigate and position yourself without being, a huge boulder, a huge rock. And, certainly in Airbus U.S., we've had that flexibility uh, and the belief, of our board, both our external board members, the internal board members who, recognize that there's a lot of growth and trusted me to build that.
Yeah. You mentioned people as
Mhm.
being the required element to get a
Absolutely.
project done.
Absolutely.
And, as a second gen recruiter and a recruiting firm owner, I'm always so interested. How do you identify the people who are going to be entrepreneurial and run with you?
I tend to look for systems thinkers, people who can understand a bigger picture and the why and how things fit together. It's certainly how my brain works,
Yep. A holistic view.
a holistic view.
Mhm.
I don't know if you had this growing up, but my parents would say, like, oh, you need a well rounded education. I did music, I did sports, I did pom pom. So you do.
I did pom pom too. I did not picture you for a cheer girl with the engineering background as well. That's
Oh,
awesome.
yeah.
Of course, you were
Yeah,
captain. That's
of
fun.
course. So, all these things that pull the personalities together. So, looking for, okay, now you need the super experts, obviously. Um, but I think of people who think outside of their box, and it could be also their passion, the resilience, some aspect of risk taking. But you always need somebody on the team, at least one, who's going to prevent you or question you from jumping off too high a bridge. Very good to
Eh,
have.
you appreciate people that'll challenge you.
I appreciate people who challenge
Yeah.
and but who also won't stop it. To say, well, what? Let's say I do want to jump. Well, then what? Do you have a parachute? Do you have a mattress? Do you I don't know, have an air balloon? Or is it really only one story jump and you're afraid of one, but I can jump from 10 or I'm confident? So you
Mhm.
need, this is what I look for, holistic people who can fill the things also that I'm not good at.
Well,
I
once a
need
decision's been
somebody,
made, then support it.
then support it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Exactly.
Understood.
Yeah. And you definitely need people who fill you need to know yourself and what you're good at, what you need help with, and so that you can have that full circle of expertise in each area. Because otherwise, if everyone's too similar, you have the same blind spots.
Mhm. What do you think related to that is the skill the next gen needs that we didn't necessarily need? The most important skill set for them?
The skill set that we did not have. Well, one thing I think they still need is how to develop. I still think you need the people relationships. And as we have more and more electronics and kids growing up with whatever, iPads or
Oh, my 5th
phones.
grader would say handwriting.
Oh yeah,
It's
actually, that's
atrocious.
that's a good one. Actually, yeah, you need to know how to read and write cursive or something. Um,
That's already gone. Well, yeah, we're
yeah,
just
yeah,
we're just going for
forget that.
penmanship that's legible here. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe
Mm.
that's what we need from them is to be comfortable in this world of AI and what's true, what's not. The concept of reality. Uh, I think it's totally changing, and we don't even realize it.
Mhm.
We don't know. You can impersonate voices and emails and obviously a lot of
Uh,
cyber stuff. It's kind of scary.
Yeah, I think the stuff that resonates on all the social media is stuff where it feels real. Like you put stuff out there and what people really value is where it's not a doctored up photo, it seems like. And you can tell this is not a shining moment. So that's really interesting. Yeah. So you're saying the relationship with AI and bots and robots and how do we maximize that, but also that kind of comfortability as well.
Yeah. The trust, comfortability, and the interactions with humans. Humans are social creatures. We need the connectedness, the in person, the trust, the understanding, all the unspoken languages in our bodies, in our eyes, in our what we're looking at, the multitasking. That again, I still think people are the biggest ingredient, and knowing how to connect one another. One of my core values, my two core values, if you summarize them, are pioneering, which you're probably not surprised of, given my wall,
We're going to
and
talk about that
and
next before I let you go.
passion, and the
Mm.
second is community. So doing doing whatever you want to do together, spending time with the people who are most important to you, uh, being open to love, sharing that, and helping others. Um, again, not being afraid to ask for help. But international collaboration, you brought that up earlier. Just as a The community can be as big or small as you like, but for me, it's a super important part of who I am, how I was raised, and mm, how I live or want to live.
It comes across in all of you, Deborah. Tell us what's behind you. I wouldn't say it's a typical trophy wall coming out of the defense industry. We see a lot of those. Tell me about the rocket there.
So I have to say I renovated my condo. I swear it's taken 2 years, and so this is actually kind of new. So it's not my wall of diplomas or,
So- Sort of why it's more
whatever,
interesting.
captures. Exactly. So, let's see, what do I have? A little bit of everything. So you can see a lot of color. I like color. My rocket is, French, Tintin. So,
Absolutely
from
pioneering. You've got an
yeah.
astronaut up there too.
Yeah, I've got my little astronaut. This is actually super fun. You can get it on Amazon, I think. Uh, and actually, a little plug, Courtyard Marriott in Titusville, uh, by Kennedy Space Center in our factory. They have them in all the rooms. So you
Oh,
plug it in
snap.
and you can have, a whole stars above your.
Well, I wonder if you can just take one with you and they charge you later.
Oh, they do. Yeah,
Yeah,
they'll do that too.
I love it.
Mine's legit. Yeah, I've got little things from my travels around the
I see
world.
some, yeah,
Uh,
Russian
yeah, some
mm,
Russian stuff,
pieces up there.
Ukraine, Hong Kong, little family history from my mom's mom, of their family in the U.S. This goes way back, and then we also have immigrants. My grandparents.
Where's your mom's mom from?
Well, they're kind of from all over, but this is the Cogswell side, which was that was the Scottish side, but we have Scottish, Irish, uh, English, Italian, Czechoslovakian, Polish, we between my parents. So I'm American. It's a big hodgepodge of history. Yeah, some awards, women in aerospace. Let's see what else I got. You see my picture of Pluto from the
Yes,
new.
that doesn't look like a stock photo either. Tell me, tell me what we're looking at.
So that little photo there from the New Horizons spacecraft, that one of the images. My past life at Ball Aerospace, now BAE, built one of the cameras. So that's from that mission. And there's many different colorations for the different sensors that were taken of Pluto. So when we made this one, that was the gift from my team when I left Ball, because I'm like, that's the one
It's a rainbow.
that
It's beautiful.
it's a rainbow and the little heart on it. Some different moon
Mm.
shaped uh, vases, and then in the corner there is mostly a lot of my Michigan stuff. People know me; I'm a big fan. See over
Mhm.
here.
Yeah, you're
Uh,
EE and MSE there, right?
I exactly,
Yeah. Yeah.
exactly. So
Well,
that's some Michigan stuff and some earth and art. Yeah, so all the stuff I love.
Yes. Well, thank you so much for sharing your pioneering spirit, along with obviously, we can tell you love your community here too, as well as your home.
Yeah, thank you so much, Catherine. Really appreciate the opportunity, and thanks for bringing. You're creating the community as well. I'm grateful to be part of it, and look forward to working with you more.